Are you looking for inspiring conversations about faith, film, and life? You're in the right place. Here's the host who knows the right questions to ask, Father Edward Looney.
Hey everybody, it's Father Edward. Grateful you're tuning in for another conversation. Today, I'm very excited to be sharing with you about another person on the way to sainthood. That's one of my favorite things to tell people about and to share, are these stories, these people that can inspire us, but also can intercede for us. And we're going to talk about a Vietnamese cardinal. His name is Cardinal Nguyen Van Thuan. And I have a sister who's going to be sharing a little bit about him. She's the co-author of a new biography about her brother. But for me, I first came to know of Cardinal Nguyen Van Thuan. I was at the Eucharistic Congress in Canada back in 2008. And I just remember hearing his story and it being shared, and it was just really remarkable. And then there was another documentary just, within the last 5 years that told his story at the very end. And, I was watching it with another priest. I had a pre-screener link. And so this other priest and I were watching this, and he was just very inspired and so was I. He had never heard the story of Cardinal Nguyen Van Thuan. So very excited to have this story shared with so many others today. So thank you so much, Elizabeth, for joining me.
Thank you, Father, for having me.
Yeah. So, give us a little introduction to who Cardinal Nguyen Van Thuan is. Who is he? Why is his story important? What is it that, when I heard his story in 2008 and when I heard it again watching that documentary, why are people inspired by him?
To start with, Father, my brother was born in a family of Catholic. My grandparents and ancestors were converted in the 18th century by the missionaries of European missionaries. And so my brother was brought up in that very environment of Catholic and very reverent towards the faith. And so at the 13 years old, he decided that he would like to join the seminary. And in our country at that time, there is a minor seminary for kids under the high school age and the major seminary for seminarians who've already passed the younger years and moving up to the major one. So then my parents were a bit concerned and at the same time extremely happy. But they were concerned because my brother was extremely spoiled by my grandmother. And so they were wondering if, the strict discipline and the poor quality of food in those seminaries would really be something that he may not be able to tolerate. And so they kind of asked him, Francis, you think you are sure? And my uncles and my aunts, we all said, well, we'll be praying for you, but make sure that you think this is your calling. But then he kept saying, yes, it is. And so the day that he left the family home to go to that seminary, which is in the north of Vietnam, we are in the center of Vietnam. So my mother said that my grandmother said to him, Thuan, don't look back when you stepped out with your suitcase with Dad, because if you look back and you see me and your mother cry, then you may really lose the calling. So, and my father says, so they went to the train station to take the train, and everybody was looking at him and said that, oh, that Leon boy, in a few days, he's going to go home because seminary is difficult time. But no, he persisted and he was extremely happy in the seminary. It was during the time of great chaos in Vietnam. It was a time when the Viet Cong, the Viet Minh, we call it then, the North Vietnamese, were extremely violent towards the French government who was then colonizing our country. It was in the 40s. And so there was a lot of riots everywhere, especially attacks on the seminary, because the communists think that all the Christians are in, working with the colonizer, the European, because they think that the Christianity is really imposed by the white people. So, but he persisted it, and he graduated from that seminary and went on to the major seminary, which is, thank God, in our city. And in 1953, he was ordained priest. Right after that, he was sent to the north in a small parish, and but due to very bad tuberculosis, he had to go to the hospital in Saigon, in a French military hospital, to be cured. And there, I think my brother received the first miracle. Before the operation, the surgeon wanted the last X-ray to see how much the lungs are affected. And so he was waiting in the hospital for hours. But then at the end of the evening, the surgeon came and said, Father Francis, we don't know how to explain it, but the X-rays shows that your lungs are completely clear. So you can go home now. And so he went home. He was sent to another parish, but not long after, he was sent to Rome to study, and that's where he got his canon law degree, and came back to be the director of the seminary in our city. And in 1968, he became the first bishop of the Diocese of Nha Trang, which was before under the French bishops. And he stayed there for 8 years. And in 1975, when the communists invaded the South, and a few weeks before the last American troops left Vietnam, he was named Archbishop Coadjutor of the Diocese of Saigon, which is now Ho Chi Minh City. And but the communists did not like that appointment. They think that, the Vatican wanted a young bishop, an active anti-communist bishop, to come here to make trouble or to bring rioting and all that against the government. And so on the Feast of Our Lady, the 15th of August, he was arrested and started his 13 years of prison.
Wow, quite the incredible story there that you just shared. Just, the fact that he was healed of this tuberculosis. And there are so many great stories of Catholic individuals, especially clergymen, like Father Patrick Peyton was healed of tuberculosis. And, there are others. That's the one that immediately comes to mind. But I know I've heard these stories. And, for Father Patrick Payne, who's on the way to sainthood, he said to Our Lady, like, if you heal me, I'll be all in for you. And so, and he was healed, and he believed he was healed, and the doctors doubted him, and then they finally did the X-ray, like that doctor did for your brother, and they realized, wow, he's not kidding. He has been healed of this. And so, that's a marvel to be the first bishop, the founding bishop of a new diocese. That's pretty prestigious, So you mentioned that he was imprisoned. So why was he imprisoned and like where did they arrest him? Like I think there have been some people that have been arrested maybe while they're saying mass or at church or something like that. But what were the circumstances of his arrest?
On the Feast of Our Lady, the 15th of August, my brother said that the government convened all the bishops, the priests, seminarians of the city to a theater, a big theater, for a meeting and to dialogue with the government. But as he entered the theater, he was separated from the rest and then accompanied back to the house of residence, forced residence back in his own diocese in a small parish. And he was put there under the very strict direction that he is not to celebrate Mass or not to talk to anybody. He would be given food and lodging by the parish priest of that Lyon parish. And but the marvelous thing about it is that he said, when they convened us to the theater to meet with them, I didn't bring anything. The only thing that I always kept with me is the rosary. And so when they arrested me and accompanied by two policemen and driven in a jeep to the house of arrest, the only thing I could say is, Mother Mary, today is your feast day. And I'm arrested. And I know that you will be with me during this trial. And the whole time, he said, he was reciting the rosary all the way to the house arrest. And for him, it was a good start, although it's a bad thing to be in prison, but at least on the day of Mary. But he was also freed, released from prison on the feast day of Mary too, in November. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so you mentioned that he wasn't able to say mass, but I think part of his story is that he found a way to say mass while he was in prison, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. When he was in forced residence at the beginning of his year of prison in 75, he was able to say mass by himself because the parish priest would give him horse and wine. But a few months after that, he was put in solitary confinement. And that's where he did not have anything with him. And that's when he sent out a message that he needed medication for his stomach. And way before he was arrested, he had many conferences with all the religious people and people in the faithful. And he said, there will be a day when us, priests and religious, we will be put away. And so if I am in prison, I would be calling for medicine for stomach. And you know what I mean. So whenever he's sent out for that, the faithful and the family knew he needed wine. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's incredible. So he was able to get that. So, yeah, this is not so far distant from our time. Like this was what, in the 1980s? Like how can things like this happen in the world still today?
I think it happens every day and even right now in many parts of the world, as you know, but also in Vietnam. You can preach the gospel, but if you try to talk a bit about human rights or social justice, too close to criticizing the government, then your bishop will be told to transfer you somewhere else, to a smaller parish or a parish that is far away from a big metropolis. And so the church is now able and free in Vietnam to celebrate Mass and to have Catholic school and seminaries. however, with a certain limited freedom.
Okay.
Not like in the 80s. In the 80s, it was, my brother said that during those years, he was the only bishop in prison, but there were more than 300 priests in prison in those years.
Okay. Now, my understanding is he gets released, so he doesn't die in prison. Uh, so what was life like for him after he was released, and why did they release him? How did he get out of prison?
At that time, as you recall, in 1988, where he was released, it was a lot of upheaval in Europe. I think John Paul II was the one who declared, "Be not afraid," and so, and the wall of Berlin and all of these things, and then Gorbachev came with the openness for Soviet Union and all that. So the government was in Vietnam was a little bit shaky, and in Amnesty International plus Vatican putting so much pushing them to release him. So then they just said the story of that day when he was called to the Minister of Interior Affairs, it was rather a story to be told. It said that in the morning he was preparing breakfast, and the guard came and said, "So, Mr. Thuan, have you finished eating?" And he said, "No, I'm still cooking my breakfast." And so the guard said, "Eat quickly, and here are the clothing to change. You don't go and see the minister in pajamas." And so he was given nice clothing to go. And so when he went there, and he said to himself, "It's the feast of the presentation of Mary, so there must be something good for me." So he went there, and he said that he was so just straightforward. The minister said, "Oh, Mr. Thuan, you've been here we have kept you for 13 years, and you have been nothing but trouble for us. First, you converted the God, then you teach them religious songs, then the outside media put pressure on us to release you, and then you send out meditation. Now they publish in the book, The Road of Hope. So what do you want today?" And he said suddenly he has that courage, and he said, "I just want to be free." And the minister said, "Just like that?" And he said, "Yep, just like that." He said, "When?" He said, "Today." And he said, to his surprise, the minister said, "So what do you think, why we should free you?" He said, "Well, I've been here for so long already. I've seen so many popes. I've already seen, the government in Russia changing. I've been here for too long, and I just want to be free." So then the minister said to the guard, "Okay, get the papers ready and free him." Just
And
like that.
And where did he go then?
So
He
then,
left the prison, and where'd he go?
so then he was driven to the Hanoi Archbishop home. And he's supposed to just be there like a person who lives in the residence, but not to be saying mass in public or anything. He could say in his own room, but not in public. So he stayed there. And then he started to venture out at night in bicycle, seeing people, talking to faithful. And so the government did not like that either. So they met with him and they said, "Why don't you go away? Just get out of the country." And he said, "No, I just want to be here. Give me any position." He said, "No, we think about that. But for now, just go and visit your parents, or go to Rome, visit the Pope, wherever you go, but don't come back for another year or so." So he left to Australia to visit my parents. And then after that, he went to Rome to ask the Pope if he could, be given a parish somewhere in the countryside of Vietnam. He just want to go back. But it didn't go very well. So in 1991, they confiscated his passport and let him say, go and don't come back. Yeah.
And what year did he die?
2002, Father, September 16.
Okay. And so when he got released, of course, you as his sister, you probably saw him. So what was that reunion like?
Well, when he called my parents from Hanoi, he just said that I am freed and I will be able to visit you. But then the phone was cut right away. And so my parents were wondering if, they playing game with us or what. Is he released or is he coming or not? But then the embassy in Australia called up our parents and said that yes, they were told by the nuncio in Thailand that my brother will be traveling to Thailand first, and from Thailand to Australia, Sydney, Australia, and they go given the date, and so my brother, my parents were waiting, and my brother didn't want to say in advance in case there is the last minute hurdles. So when he finally arrived, my father couldn't recognize him. My father kept saying, oh, Monsignor. He thought it was some priest. Oh, Monsignor, oh, Father, oh, come in the house. But my mother recognized him right away. The fact that my father couldn't recognize him is because my brother has aged and has lost so much weight. So it was difficult to recognize him.
Sure. So, yeah, with his cause then, so after he dies in the early 2000s, there's this, I think it's an incredible story. He celebrates Mass in prison. That's kind of the moving thing, that how it was smuggled in and how he was so intimately united with Christ in the Eucharist. So there's a movement then to make him a saint. So when did that start, and what were your impressions? Like, what's it like for you to have a sibling on the way to sainthood?
So when he came out from prison and started to work in Vatican in 1994, John Paul II appointed him to be vice president of the Pontifical Council of Justice and Peace. And then in 1998, he became a president of Justice and Peace. And so he worked there and he was elevated to the Cardinal in the body of Cardinal in 2001. And he was diagnosed with cancer and died the year after. But during the years that he was working with the people in the Council of Justice and Peace, I think there was such atmosphere of holiness and of really dedication and unity together, that when he passed away, his secretary, Bishop Crepandi, and the staff decided to ask if he could be elevated, they could open his cause. And it was under Pope Benedict. And Pope Benedict right away accepted it. And so it was how it started. Because usually it's a diocese in the home country or in where he works. But since he's in Vietnam, nobody would dare to open his cause. So then it was the Council of Justice and Peace who opened it. And you asked me how I feel about it. Well, Father, people always said, "Oh, he's a hero," and this and that. But for me, I really don't like the term hero. For me, my brother is a man deeply and intimately touched by God, and it is almost a joy, and at the same time, some kind of emotional to look at your own brother who babysat me. I'm the younger, so he babysat me, and the one who took me to university and on that, and to see that now, that's how he is, venerable. He's been declared in 2017. It is emotional and at the same time extremely grateful towards God to have given us a heritage of faith through all my ancestors to produce a fruit in my brother.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. Do you pray asking his intercession often, like every day?
I am, Father. I am, because in 2017, I was diagnosed with stage 4 non-Hodgkin lymphoma. And so everybody pray for me. I am now, after 8 years, I'm now in remission.
Wow. Well, that's incredible. I don't think that happens often.
So I do pray if you ask me. And even now, every night, I said, Francis, I really need you to help me in this or in that. And when I was writing the book with Father Leclerc as well, we were really, both of us, praying that if it is a good thing to do it or not. And then, but yes, we do all the time, asking him to ask God and Mary to help us.
Yeah, a lot of times in these causes for sainthood, people like to visit the grave of the individual. So where is he buried? Like if someone wanted to make a pilgrimage there?
Oh, Father, I'm so glad that you asked that. He is buried in his tutelar church, Maria della Scala, in the suburb of Trastevere in Rome.
Okay. Well, I am going to Rome in a few weeks, in early September. So I will write that down and make that a spot to go and to pray. So for sure.
I can even give you the number of the lady who may be able to direct you how to get the bus or to go there. I will email you if you like.
Oh, sure. I would love that. That'd be great.
Yeah. So you send me your email, Father. I will. Yeah.
Okay,
because
perfect.
it is a very nice suburb of Rome, very touristic, and the church is next to the Santa Maria Trastevere, a bigger church that belongs to San Egidio.
Oh, sure. I've heard of that. Yep.
Yeah, and his is a tiny little one next to that big church, and that's where he is buried.
Okay. And then, so we're talking today about your brother, Cardinal Nguyen Van Thuan, who is a venerable, as you mentioned. And part of the reason is because you have co-authored with someone else a biography of him. So in that biography, are you just telling his life story, or are you interweaving your anecdotes of childhood? Like, what does the reader get when they read that biography?
I think the reader will get the fact that family is very important. And my brother just didn't come like that. My brother was raised in a certain environment to be able to nourish that calling. And so that's one thing, to call onto the living the faith within the family. That's one point. The other point is that each one of us can be called to holiness in just doing our own responsibility in own walks of life. So he always said that the church exists to evangelize. The role of the church and the nature of the church is evangelization. And us, each one of us, by the baptism, we are all missionaries in many ways, in our own walks of life. And I really love that because, you don't have to be a priest, you don't have to be a nun, you don't have to be a bishop, and you don't have to be educated, you don't have to be healthy or old. You can be a child and you can be a good missionary in your classroom. And that's really, for me, is very important. And the other point is he always said, love leads to evangelization. And that's his life, right? In prison. And he loves his jailers and all of this. And he said, love always leads to evangelization.
Yeah. I can even see that his love for God, his love for the Lord and the Eucharist, like that's evangelizing all of us too. So not only his love towards others, but his own personal love towards the Lord our God. So yeah, that's magnificent. So this book, who publishes it?
Ignatius Press, Father.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah. So I'll be sure to link to it. Definitely one of those biographies I think people want to read because this was truly a heroic man, and you've just touched a little bit on his life today, and truly inspiring all that he endured. And I think, when someone's in prison like that, it would be easy to lose faith, to give up, but he was a man of strong faith and he kept loving and so he didn't give up and he persevered. And in the end, rewarded, he was released, and then he was able to continue the Lord's work in so many other ways. So a very powerful witness to evangelization, as you mentioned. So everybody go out, get this book about Cardinal Nguyen Van Thuan. So thank you so much, Élisabeth, for sharing these memories and for sharing so much about him.
Thank you, Father.
If you liked today's episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're listening. And don't forget to stay up to date with what Father Edward is doing by following him on Facebook, X, or Instagram at the handle @FrEdwardLooney. Thanks for listening, and please join Father Edward again next time for another inspiring conversation.